Okay. Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar, which is called Build Better Teams with Develop by Criteria. My name is Michelle. I'm your host from Criteria, and I want to thank everyone for joining us today. What we've got in store for you is a live demo of Criteria's brand new employee development platform, which is called Develop. So let's jump right into it. Today's webinar will be about 45 minutes total, reserving about 15 minutes for a Q&A at the end. So feel free to add your questions to the Q&A box, and we'll answer as many as possible at the end. After the webinar is over, we'll be sharing the slides and the recording to everyone attending today. As for Criteria, our goal is to empower companies to hire and develop top talent through easy-to-use products that are grounded in science and designed to engage candidates, highlight potential, reduce bias, and drive superior outcomes. Today's webinar will be presented by Greg Isaacs and Megan Warrenbrand. Greg Isaacs is the Chief Product Officer at Criteria, where he guides the development of all of Criteria's talent success solutions. Greg has a wide array of experience in delivering innovative products that delight clients, including past leadership roles at ZipRecruiter, the NFL, and eBay. Welcome, Greg.
Hey, Michelle.
And Megan Warrenbrand is a consulting psychologist at Criteria, where she helps clients gather meaningful insights to drive equitable and robust talent decisions. With a master's degree in industrial organizational psychology, Megan's experience and interests center around how cutting-edge selection tools, backed by industry best practices, can act as a catalyst in building a successful and resilient workforce. Welcome, Megan.
Thank you. Hi, everyone.
And I will pass it off to Greg to get us into the presentation.
Great. Thanks again. Hi, everyone. I'm really excited today to talk about Develop, formerly known as Talent Insights, for those of you who've used it in the past. And we're going to cover a few things, or we're going to talk about really why we built Develop. Megan's going to spend some time talking about the science behind Develop. It's pretty unique. We're going to spend some time talking about and actually doing a demo of the product and show using real data how Criteria uses it to solve real problems and help onboard and develop talent, and then Q&A. And so let's start with why we actually built Develop. It really is, we have much thanks to everyone on this call and many of our customers who, couldn't make it today. As we've continued to listen to you, our customers, and how to best support your talent initiatives, the consistent feedback we've received is how can you apply the two things that Criteria does best, which is predictive science and ease of use, and how do you apply that throughout the talent lifecycle, and specifically around the post-hire use cases of onboarding and development. So if you go back to Criteria's history, and I'm going to move my mouse here a little bit, most of you have known us for an assessment company. And over the last many years, we spent time really becoming best in class in developing a broad and deep portfolio of predictive assessments covering 5 different categories. Today, we have over 25 assessments in 25 different languages. And again, best in class in terms of ease of use and predictiveness. And then we listen to you, our clients, in terms of what to do next. And so we got into the structured interviewing category, helping you interview with more accuracy and efficiency, and then followed by Develop. And as I mentioned earlier, we started out with the product called Talent Insights. We got some great feedback on that product. And then we've actually built Develop with the goal in mind of maximizing your investment in talent to support the critical onboarding and ongoing development experiences. Because as you know, hiring someone or finding the right talent for the right job is only the start of the journey. We want to make sure that we help you onboard them and ultimately make them successful in whatever role they're in. Now, the nice thing is you can use assessments, structured interviewing, or Develop independently, or you can use them together. The beauty of them using them together is that you will get what we call a highly confident compounding talent signal. And this is basically just knowing as much as you can about a candidate and an employee to make the right decision of putting them in the right job at the right time, and then ultimately making them successful. And today, if you are part of our Talent Success Suite package, you can go and use Develop right now. If you're not, I encourage you to reach out to your rep about having a demo or just upgrading and using the product. It's very easy to use, and hopefully you'll see from the demo, there's a lot of power there. So again, thank you for everything that you've done in guiding in this direction. So really, what does develop in a nutshell? Well, it does three critical things. First, it measures. The second thing it does is it analyzes. And the third, it ultimately improves effectiveness of two main key stakeholders. First, managers, and the second is teams. And ultimately, it will benefit the entire organization, especially the HR or people and culture teams. So let's dive into each of these groups a little bit deeper and talk about how they can develop can benefit each of them. So for managers, really started here. And the focus is about how do we make managers into great leaders through personalized training and best-in-class AI coaching. Now, we all know if you read the research, for example, Gallup indicates that 70%, 70, of a team's engagement is attributable to their managers. And Gartner has a similar study that talks about effective managers. If you work for an effective manager, you're likely to have 15 times more effective high performers and 3 times more likely to stay. So managers are really the linchpins of great organizations. But increasingly, managers are being asked to do more with less resources. And so Develop was built with them in mind to help them do their jobs much more effectively on terms and the timing that works best for them. The second group is around teams. And this is around helping teams focus on and conquering common goals by identifying the team's strengths, their potential areas of development, and then closing those gaps to advance the team towards being cohesive, collaborative, and ultimately being productive. And again, you'll hopefully see this throughout the demo in a few minutes. And then finally, for the organization, in particular HR leaders, we want HR leaders to have an ally in Develop. And the goal is to give you the ability to not only roll out Develop to your organization, but be able to measure progress, to look at the impact this development is having on your organization, to foster a culture where growth is a priority, and ultimately get to an ROI. So if you're asked, what is the benefit of using criteria, or in this case, Develop, you can come up with a really powerful quantitative example of the value it drives. So let's talk a little bit about, the benefits of Develop and what we like to call the Develop effect. So I covered the first two here around leadership effectiveness and team performance, but more broadly, implementing development will help in a couple different ways. First, it can help with employee engagement and retention, as employees will benefit from seeing that an organization's commitment to ongoing training and development is real. And this will show up in KPIs like your net promoter score or turnover or retention, for example. So really powerful benefits of using Develop. And then in addition, it can help with strategic execution. So this will help in terms of getting the organization aligned, focusing on business objectives, delivering strong results, and ultimately being not only more strategic, but more innovative. So this can, again, show up in metrics like revenue growth or productivity. So there's lots of benefits to Develop. I'm going to hand it over to Megan, who's going to talk a bit about the science, and then we're going to jump into the demo, which I think will be hopefully really exciting for you all.
Thanks, Greg. Yeah, so what does the Develop journey consist of? Well, basically it starts with the measurement and diagnostic tools known as our team scan. So this is about a 5-minute assessment, pretty brief, but it still assesses a wealth of information, such as 17 different team performance drivers. It's also anonymous, and we'll talk a bit more about what that team scan looks like in detail in just a moment. And then we're also using our employee personality profile to dig deeper into both individual and team insights there as well. And so really we can take our results to the next level with AI-powered coaching here as well. And in just a moment, we'll talk about how you can continuously monitor the progress of both your teams and individuals on them to really help them thrive as well. And so what does the actual science and supporting science look like when we talk about measurement and diagnostics of team dynamics? So basically, for those Ted Lasso fans out there, in the spirit of Ted, one might say that, teams are like a box of biscuits. Each one's got a different role to play, but they all got to fit together just right to make something special. So that's where Develop's team scan comes in. It's really like that secret recipe that helps you figure out what each biscuit or team member can bring to the table, helps you whip up a winning batch each time. And so just like Ted Lasso brings out the best in his teams, develops Team Scan also comes in to help managers and teams uncover the strengths in their areas for growth, and then ultimately ensure that every team member can play their part and really bring perfection to the team as well. So this is really about 20 questions. Again, it's only about 5 minutes to complete. It's fully anonymous. It really helps you understand fully different areas of your team. We'll look at in just a moment. And so what is the scientific framework behind Team Scan? Well, to decide how we could create a scientific model of team excellence, our amazing research and development psych team set off on a quest. So we analyzed decades of research and data to understand key behaviors and states that set exceptional teams apart. We're able to identify 17 different key constructs, their corresponding factors, and did so by referencing the IMOI model of team effectiveness. So this is a model that looks at a continuous cycles of inputs, mediators, outputs, and then ultimately feedback. We're able to group 17 dimensions into 4 different factors. And so through creating the assessment of these 17 different dimensions, we're able to develop and rigorously test this to ensure high reliability and validity. So a little snapshot into some of our development process there is doing an in-depth literature review, in-depth research, item development and expert revision, ultimately doing some empirical testing and data collection there. Further refining this information and doing a second data collection, a confirmatory factor analysis for those who have more of that psych background or stats background as well, doing a reliability and then correlational analysis, and finally taking into account some demographic considerations there. And so then what are these factors and their 17 corresponding dimensions? So basically, we are able to group these constructs into 4 different factors, such as target, empower, align, and monitor. So when you think of target, this is really like the game plan and outlining a path to victory. So how does your team set up clear, meaningful, and achievable goals? And so some dimensions that fit into this factor are going to be things like goal specification and goal difficulty, strategy and planning, and goal commitment. When we think of empower, this is really helping members feel safe, supported, valued, and motivated. So looking at dimensions such as motivating, potency, organizational citizenship behaviors, and psychological safety. To align on clear strategies and boost morale, looking at, are there clear defined roles in the organization? Do we have healthy conflict management and a mutual understanding of each other? And so different dimensions here, such as communication, decision-making, conflict management, and then group cohesion and cognition come into play. And then finally, to monitor. So this can be thought of as more of the coach's playbook, really monitoring team strategies and making adjustments. So are we tracking threats to the team's progress, keeping an eye out for learning and adjustment opportunities, and looking at things like affect management, goal progress, and systems monitoring, as well as team learning here. So all of these dimensions and factors in mind, how can we then take this information and combine it further with personal and team level insights as well? So ultimately, we can shed light on each individual's behaviors at work and how they interact with others, and then deploy our employee personality profile, or even reuse results from pre-hire testing here as well. So this assessment's based on our Big Five model of, well, not our Big Five model, but the Big Five model of personality. So it's the most widely accepted personality classification. And it looks at 12 different traits to understand really what people bring to the team, how this impacts their work behavior. So some positive outcomes, to name a few, of assessing personality in this way would be to look at things like improving job satisfaction and engagement, team communication, and then retention, just to name a few. So to gain a different view of both individuals and team insights as a whole, we can look from that post-hire perspective as well at things like attitudes and outlook, work habits, temperament, and then interaction style, and ultimately can digest this information in a whole variety of ways. So how does this apply to leadership styles or motivating a team? Understanding both on the personal level and that team level, things like skill gaps or strengths and potential challenges for people, especially in people-facing roles. And so really this is about 140 items in the assessment. It's untimed, but it takes about 10 minutes to complete. So still a relatively short amount of time there as well. And to get more information on both those team and individual behavior impacts for work outcomes, we have our AI-powered ally, CoachBo. So CoachBo is optimized to draw upon a robust data set to ensure 24/7 access to personalized coaching while continuously learning and adapting. So Criteria team got really clever in the naming convention or meaning behind the name here, and just a couple examples of what and or who CoachBo is compliant with ethics and AI regulations, objective, drawing on research and science, actionable for workplace improvements, confidential and secure, human-centric and empathetic, and then based on practices from a vast knowledge base to ultimately be oriented towards effective solutions. So I'll hand it over to Greg to discuss the second half of our develop journey and then a walk through the platform where we can see all of this in action.
Yeah, thank you, Megan. So on the left side, Megan had covered how we measure and diagnose with develop. Now I'm going to show you how we help organizations empower and thrive using develop in 3 key ways. One is around once the team scan has been completed, that was what Megan showed you earlier. It'll help identify skill gaps and learning pathways we recommend. We've got a massive, I think it's about 120 different pieces of content for this on-demand skills library that you can leverage in any time or your employees can leverage. And then ultimately gives you actionable insights and guides, all powered and amplified by CoachBo, our AI system. So I'm going to share my screen here. And this is actually a couple things I wanted to point out before we dive into the demo. This is a live demo of Criteria's instance, our product. It's all real data. Any data that I share, I've cleared it with the people in the organization, so they're cool with it. And I will show you how we've leveraged it, and it's been really amazing. So let me walk you through the navigation real quick. You can see here, this is the admin view. So many of you will have admin view. If you're just a team member, your view is going to be slightly different. And then there's a few other navigational elements here and settings in the right corner, as well as alerts. Now, a couple of things about this homepage. You can see here, we really try and make it action-oriented. So this is an example where CoachBo knows who I am. I can go back to any of the past chats I've had with the CoachBot. At any particular time, I can just do a regular check-in. I can also get programmatic emails any particular day of the week and time. So mine are set to every week at 9 a.m. And I get a message from CoachBo just to check in, which will click me back to this experience here. We also have other to-dos. In the right-hand corner, you'll see the entire time through the entire experience, you'll see CoachBo, which we're going to spend a lot of time getting to know Bo a little bit more. And then if you don't have any data, which many of you may not, you can always click the quick actions button. And there's a whole set of sample reports. You can take the team scan to see what it's like. So if you don't have data, don't worry. You can use the quick actions and click on any of these reports. And CoachBo will actually leverage the data in there as well. So again, it's a great way to demo the product. Now, I'm going to walk you through the profile sections, which is really one of the 2 key elements of Develop today. And we have a hierarchy starting with me, the individual. You can then set up teams. You can set up as many teams as you like. Those teams roll up into a department. So I run product. And then ultimately, those departments roll up into an organization. And so today, I'm going to spend time showing you my profile, a particular team, as well as a department. So let's dive into my profile. Now, one of the cool things that we've enabled here is basically creating your presence, or think of it as your simple social media page that allows you to talk about who you are, how to connect with you, maybe your personal mantra, what you do at work, what you like to do, for example, what you do outside of work. We make it really easy by clicking a button here. We have all these different prompts that you can simply add a couple bullet points into them to help fill out this page here. Now, this is really important because not only Does it help someone, let's say they have a meeting with you for the first time, know about you a little bit, maybe how you like to work? But this is also data that gets fed into Coach Bo. So it will be able to know my role, what's important for me. And we've done something similar for our organization criteria, where we put in our company values as well, which is really important when you'll see in a moment when we start to interact with Bo and want to talk about getting advice, but how do those align to company's values? And then again, you can see here my workplace insights, which I'll show you in a minute. You can see chat history with Coach Bo. By the way, you can turn off Coach Bo on or off if you want. You have complete flexibility, as you do here with all permissions. So this is my workplace insights report. Again, what Megan talked about earlier through our personality assessments, these are the results. You can either take it as a candidate or as an employee. And you can see here, there's just a lot of great data to help you understand my superpower. Again, high-level conscientiousness, the strengths of that superpower. Just like any personality trait, there's a positive to having personality areas, and there's some areas of focus. So for example, the risk of my superpower for me is that I'm conscientious, but maybe I overthink decisions, causing delays. So that's something I'm cognizant of. Also a hidden strength as well. Same with the idea of the hidden strengths and some of the risks there. And then you can see the personality summary. For those of you who've used Talent Insights, you will be aware of this. This is my personality summary highlighted across 10 different traits, and then more insights as well. Now, I will say there's a lot of power to this, but there's also a lot of content. And so where Bo comes in, which is really helpful, is that, let's say, for example, you just don't have time to read all this, right? You need to make a quick decision. You need to get a quick piece of input. So what I've done is I've launched Coach Bo. I've opened it for full window. I have a couple pre-canned questions, but there's many prompts you can leverage. And so what I'm asking Bo right now is I'm asking Bo, tell me a little bit about what you know about me, Greg, and what you know about the company. So what Coach Bo's doing is pulling on all this analysis of all the data it has, and it's also maintaining what Megan talked about, the way we program it, high ethical standards, very conversational, and this is the result. So it knows that I'm the CPO of the company, when it was founded, what the mission is of the company. It also knows about our company values, which are integrity, innovation, teamwork, inclusivity, respect, and balance. So that's really important. And then it also knows my personality scores, which I showed you earlier, high level of conscientiousness, motivation. It also talks about the environment that I will work, exceed in. And then the beauty of this is that I can ask Bo, great, tell me more, or give me advice. It can go on for as long as you need it to, but we understand we're in a workplace, so you need to make really quick decisions. So that's just an example of my personality, but let me show you how I use this on a day-to-day basis. So Stephen is one of our very talented product managers at Criteria. You can see here, Stephen has an about guide. And the other great thing is I've learned about Stephen because he's taken a personality assessment. I've learned how to manage him. So this information is really easy to digest. I've learned how to collaborate with him. So this is the collaboration guide, which again, I'm not going to walk through all this data, but there's a great amount of data that talks about Stephen's personality against my personality and collaboration tips. So again, you've got a lot of wonderful information here, but what if you don't have time to read it? You want to get some quick information. So if I go to Stephen's manager guide and I ask for help for Coach Bo here, again, there's prompts Coach Bo gives me how to manage Stephen, motivate him. But let's say, for example, I wanted to put in a question like this, which is based on Stephen's personality insights and our company's values. How do you suggest I motivate Stephen? So what's happening here, again, to Megan's points earlier, we're looking at objective data. We're drawing on research and science. That's the way we program Coach Bo. And we've also programmed it with a vast knowledge of best practices. So if you see here what Coach Bo has responded to my question about motivating Stephen, I'm going to read this here a little bit. To motivate Stephen effectively, align your approach with his personality traits and Criteria's core values. Stephen has got a high score in achievement, motivation, conscientiousness, cooperative and patience, and openness, indicating he's detail-oriented, collaborative, and open to new experiences. So that nails Stephen spot on. For those of you who work with him, it's exactly right. But then it gives me suggestions on how to motivate him. So give Stephen some challenges that align to his personality, high achievement, and motivation. Give him the support that he needs because he is highly conscientious, for example. He likes working with other people, so give him collaborative projects. Be very open and communicative with him, and also give him autonomy. But it also says, remember to check in with Stephen often. Stephen likes to get check-ins. And so this is really great practical advice that Coach Bo's given me. But let's say, for example, this is all great. I want to know what I can do this week. Just give me something simple because we're all very busy. So I asked Coach Bo for advice, and what Coach Bo is doing, again, going back to its founding principles, it's focusing on actionable advice for workplace environments and then oriented toward effective solutions. And so you can see here what Coach Bo has told me is that this week, consider arranging a one-on-one with Stephen to focus on current projects and professional development. Here's a specific plan. And it literally gives me a step-by-step plan of what to do with Stephen this week. I can tell you that probably I wouldn't be doing this, but Coach Bo gives it to me. It'll send me a follow-up email. It makes it very easy for me to be a good manager and hopefully a very effective manager and help Stephen be successful. So this is just an example of how Coach Bo really helps me be a better manager and hopefully help Stephen, just be at the top of his game. So let's say, for example, I wanted to, Stephen's a great performer, but let's say he wasn't performing where I needed him to be. So what if I had to give him difficult feedback? And so I've asked Bo here to provide feedback on how to do that. Again, the way we program Bo is to be very human-centric and empathetic. And so what it's doing right now is looking at Stephen's personality and giving me advice on how to provide feedback. So I'll read this. Providing feedback, difficult feedback to Stephen requires a sensitive approach, considering his high scores in cooperative and patience and lower scores in assertiveness and self-confidence. And it gives me a strategy based on his personality, how to deliver that feedback. And so the thing I love here is that preparing, it seems obvious, but that's the most important thing you need to do to be prepared, what the approach is. It even talks about a model to do that, and then ultimately following up here. And even in some cases, depending if you ask it to, you can say, help me role play the feedback, and it will assume the role of Stephen, and you can assume your role and just work that out a little bit. And then the last piece here, I'll just talk about Stephen a little bit. This is going to be a provocative question. It's meant to be not really a joke, but the point is Stephen doesn't laugh at my joke. Should I fire him? And so the point is we've programmed Coach Bo to be compliant with ethics and AI regulations. And so what Coach Bo is doing is looking at this question, analyzing it, understanding it's a really high stakes question about firing someone and giving me hopefully great advice. So let's see what it says. Laughter and humor can be subjective, and it's important to recognize that not everyone shares the same sense of humor. Good advice. Stephen's reaction to your jokes may not be necessarily reflective of his professional performance or attitudes towards you as a manager. Instead of considering termination, might be constructive to explore different ways to build rapport with him. Here are some suggestions. And at the end here gives really sound advice, remembering firing an employee should be the last resort, typically reserved for persistent performance issues, again, focusing on performance. And so, again, really powerful advice from Coach Bo that candidly, new managers, experienced managers can all benefit from. So, and of course, with Coach Bo, you can give it feedback. We love it. Was it helpful? Relevant advice in this case. And that goes back into the way we program Bo to make sure it's best in class. So now I've talked a bit about the personality of individual. I'm going to talk about a little bit about, let's see, my department level. So personality, again, could be used across the team, but let's say I'm going to focus a little bit on the department level here. And so this is where TeamScan comes into play. And let me talk about how we use this today. And so TeamScan, you can see here, we have an overall score of 77 out of 100. And that is considered a strength. Of course, overachievers, you want to be close to 100. I'd like to get to a superpower, but this is based on what my team is saying in terms of the feedback from TeamScan. And you can see here, we score highest in Empower as one of the factors, and we score lowest, relatively low in Monitor. Now, what I love about this capability is that you can see a breakdown, not only by these 4 factors. In this case, you can see Empower, you see we're in 80, you can compare it to your organization overall. So you can see in this case, we're slightly below the organizational average. In the case of monitoring, we're slightly above the organizational average, which is great. but you can also get skills guides, which I'll talk about in a minute, on how to close the gap there. What I love as well is that you've got these 4 factors, but you've got these dimensioned underneath. Now you can get really granular, and you can see for every single dimension where the team is basically scoring themselves. And so I'll give you an example where, if you look at here, learn together, which is about fostering innovation and improvement through continuous feedback and reflection. When we did this about 3 months ago, the team scan, we basically, this score is probably its lowest for learn together. It was in the 60s. So still a strength, but not where we wanted it to be. So what I did was I clicked on it. I looked at the dimension guide, which is about understanding why it's important, why it matters, and ultimately skills in this area. And the one skill that popped up for me was making debriefs a habit. And so basically what this was, you can get a lot of detailed information and tips here, was doing retrospectives on a regular basis to understand what went well, what didn't go well, make it very open, non-judgmental. And you can see, based on that, we really focus on it. We did it once a month for a couple of months, that score shot up from the bottom to right now, really middle, almost at a superpower. So that is really, really very helpful in terms of managing the team. But let's say, for example, I get my team scan for the first time and I don't know what to do. I can just go to Coach Bo and I can either ask it a question or just say something simple like, help me understand this department's overall score. So what Bo's doing now is looking at all the data, trying to understand how he scored, and start to give me recommendation. And you'll notice it's really concise in this case because it knows from my past chats, I've asked for a lot of brevity. And so you can just go down the rabbit hole with Coach Bo and just say, yep, I would love to explore ways to get more specific in this area. And Bo will guide you through an exercise. In this case, make good decisions was a 63. It will ask me if I'd like to learn a little more focusing strategy in this area. And I can get really targeted in this particular area and get some great advice. Now, before I close out the demo, the one other thing I just wanted to draw your attention to is that Coach Bo is not only limited to giving advice around personality and around team scores. There's a whole library that Coach Bo can leverage around things that are adjacent to particular team performance or personality. And these are things, advice around productivity, well-being, goal reflection, decision-making, et cetera. So let's say, for example, someone comes here and they're like, how do I focus on my mental health, on managing stress? You can simply click on a button here and Bo will guide you through a conversation around why you're feeling stressed. So let's say, for example, I wasn't stressed, but I was stressed preparing for a webinar today. And so what Bo will hopefully do is it's very empathetic. They can be stressful, and it'll ask me for more information. What do you find most stressful? Is it the content creation, technical setup, what have you? So there's so much to Bo and so much to develop. I wish I had an hour to do this with you all. But the one last takeaway I wanted to mention, as I highlighted earlier, is that the beautiful thing about Bo is that after each session, you will get an email recapping a discussion you had. So in my inbox right now, there are a bunch of emails about, hey, Greg, we discussed this. Would you like to get more details on it? There's a call to action button here that doesn't show. And so Bo wants to engage with you on your own terms when you're ready and be really helpful. So with that, thank you so much for listening and would love to take any questions that you all have.
Awesome. Thanks, Greg.
It looks like we have a question in the chat. First up from Joanna asking whether this can integrate to a customer's intranet or HRIS.
Yeah, just like ATSs, we are best in class in terms of supporting HRISs. And so there's a couple ways you can do that. If it's a well-known supported HRIS, Workday, Bamboo, for example, we can do that rather quickly. We just engage with the team, and that's pretty standard. If there's a more less well-known, or in this case, a customer's intranet, some cases you can just build directly to us through an API. What I would say is let's have a discussion through your CSM, or if you don't have a CSM yet, through your sales rep, so we can have that discussion. But if you are a user of criteria in the pre-hire context, you'll know that we support, I think, over 50 ATSs at this point. And so HRISs are the next playground for us to do smart integrations.
Great. There's another really good question here. Do all employees have access to Coach Bo or just managers and up?
Yeah, all employees do. As an admin, you have the capability to decide who has access to Coach Bo in the organization. So it could be turned on or off. Saving chats can be turned on or off. But the idea is, again, because of the way we have programmed Coach Bo and really leaning on best practices and lots of literature, is to make it available to all employees to help them have a partner, a guide, a companion, if you will, to confidentially ask questions, seek advice, and help them ultimately be better performers.
Great. And there's actually a similar question. Can peers on the same team use Coach Bo to work more effectively with their colleagues?
Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. So there's Coach Bo can help. There's also one thing we didn't get to a little bit is there's a couple things. There's the collaboration guide, which again, if the organization has enabled this, you can see the personality of a colleague and you can understand collaboration tips. So that's another way to do that. And Coach Bo will leverage that data in that conversation. So there are a few different ways as well. The one thing we didn't have a chance to demo that I think is really cool is in some of the insights that we provide through the team scan, we can actually recommend colleagues in your organization who may have scored high in a particular area or candidly may have scored low. And again, there's no bad or good here. It's like it is what it is in terms of scoring, and suggest conversations with those people to learn about best practices or similar challenges. Again, admins can turn off that functionality if you want, but we think it's a great way of exposing and encouraging thoughtful conversations and output.
Something to mention here as well too is in the develop platform when you're looking at those collaboration insights. So I know Greg showed the overlap of his dynamics matched with Steven's dynamics as an example. And so if you're in that portion of the platform and you open Coach Bo, have a question about how can I better work with this colleague or effectively manage this colleague, whatever it may be, using that page that you're on, it'll pull from those insights and then make some suggestions there for performance, collaborations, so on. So sometimes it depends on the page that you're in within that platform, but yes, it can definitely pull from a variety of those pages.
And here's another really interesting question. Does Coach Bo acknowledge reoccurring themes? For instance, the progression of an employee's specific issue and then change advice based on that?
Yeah, great question. And a very astute one. Absolutely. So one of the things we built with Bo is not only understanding the organizational values, the individual's personality, the team that they're on, but also having the context of prior conversations. And again, something you can turn on and off, but I have mine on. And so you could see that happened a bit where some of the feedback from Bo was very brief, one paragraph, because I kept on telling Bo, keep it brief. I'm like, I got to get my information and go. And so in this case, what happens is it's knowing that on past conversations, and by the way, you can reset that if you would like, but the benefit of having those past conversations is that it can understand over time common themes and even surface it. We've recognized over the last few sessions, we've talked about this. Would you like to go deeper on this, right? And so that is exactly one of candidly the benefits of Bo is that its memory is perfect, right? And so as opposed to managers who forget things, and although we have the best intent, we don't remember everything, it can really help provide targeted and specific advice in a timely fashion. So that's a really great question.
Great. Another question here, is Coach Bo only available with Develop?
Yeah, so Coach Bo is only available with Develop now. One area, or in general, what we're looking at is, you've probably seen this throughout the slides, is that Criteria has been very conservative in its support of AI. We are firm believers in AI for fit for purpose. It's got to be not just AI for AI's sake. It has to help solve a real problem. So for those of you who use our assessments, we've enabled AI for our language proficiency assessment to do automated scoring of a written sample. And so I bring that up is that we are continually looking at ways to bring Coach Bo-like functionality, that large language model chat-based functionality, into different parts of our platform, including on the pre-hire side, whether it's assessments or interviewing. So stay tuned for updates there, but it's absolutely, we've learned so much with this work, not only just in how to work with the best-in-class AI models, but also just to make sure that they're the way we program them and to support them abides by regulations and has the right philosophy for a lot of organizations. So it's been a great journey for us. Great question.
Great. Another question here, is Develop included in current subscriptions or is it an additional cost?
Yeah, so right now, if you're in the Talent Success Suite, you get it automatically. In fact, you can just start playing around with it right now. If you're not on the Talent Success Suite, it will require an upgrade. Just please reach out to your CSM if you have one. If you're on the sales side, reach out to your salesperson. I think one of the powerful things about Develop is if you're using us for pre-hire, whether it's assessments and or interviewing, as I mentioned at the very beginning, that's just the start of the journey. And so you spend all this time and energy and money bringing in great talent. Once they're in the door, how do you help onboard them and train them and continue to develop them? And that's where the product Develop can really add a ton of value. And frankly, even if you're not hiring a lot, Develop will add a tremendous amount of value in terms of the managers, making them better, teams being more cohesive and results oriented. And candidly, for I think maybe a lot of you on this call are HR professionals, you have so much to do and you're always being asked to do more with less. Coach Bo and Develop the product can be an ally for you, right? We want you to be able to roll this out to your organization with limited friction. And we want candidly employees and team leaders to thank you for doing it. Like that's our goal, right? We want to make you the heroes of this initiative. So yeah, hopefully we can get there together.
Great. And for everyone, when we're done with the webinar, there'll be a little survey afterwards where you can say if you'd like to see a demo of Develop, a personalized demo as well. We've a few more questions as well. So another question here, Develop seems to be great at making sure the team fits well with each other. When a specific person leaves, will Develop try to suggest the ideal candidate as one that fills that void specifically in the recruitment process?
Yeah, great question. So I ran out of time. I wanted to demo more for you. This is related to your question. The one piece of functionality that I wanted to demo with Coach Bo was around the gentleman. His name is Tom, who's really the architect of this product. He's done a great job along with the team that supports him. I wanted to show the team personality and say, what if Tom left? What would happen to the team? And it was a really thoughtful answer in terms of balance and innovation, but looking at the broader team's personality and their team scan. And so you can imagine we can take that kind of information connected with the pre-hire side to do exactly what you're talking about. It's not live yet, but we will have functionality live in the near term that helps bridge the gap between pre-hire and post-hire. This product, in fact, we launched something 2 weeks ago that allows you to easily take a candidate who's been hired and put them into Develop. And so you will see more of that connective tissue between the two products. And ultimately, what Bo does is just make lives easier and just allows you to ask a question. I could see a place where you get to, we've lost someone, help me find someone who is a good fit for the role. And Bo will likely ask you, well, how do you define fit? And you'll get to a series of potential internal employees or frankly external or candidates. One thing we did, like Bo, we talked about this, it will give recommendations. It won't make decisions for you. We firmly believe that humans should make the decisions. Bo is meant to be a companion and a supporter, not meant to be the final decision maker.
And another great question here, can you pull reports on the input Coach Bo is receiving to see trends?
Yeah, we've had that question in the past. It's a sensitive topic because we want to abide by privacy and confidentiality. And so we're thinking about how to bubble up information in a way that's not specific to an individual. I would say one of the things about Team Scan that is really helpful is, so Megan showed you the Likert scale and how you can go through those questions. At the end, there are some free-form questions that employees can answer. And Coach Bo will analyze. So if you've got 100 people in your organization, 50, and you've got 100 comments, it will analyze those comments and put them into themes for you. We just didn't have a chance to go through it in the demo. So that's one way of sort of getting, that's not exactly what you asked, but one way of getting an aggregate level of feedback. You know, candidly, when we do pulse surveys and we get something like communication could be better, I don't know what that means. And so one of the ways you can use Coach Bo is to help really drill into that in a little bit more detail to understand what is communication specifically and what components do you need to drill into.
Great. Another interesting question here is, what developed resources can be used to identify high potential future leaders?
Yeah, that's a great one.
Yeah.
So I know we talked a little bit about how there's that workplace insights portion of the platform as well. So it kind of got a bit of a facelift from talent insights, like Greg mentioned, but basically it kind of allows you to see on that individual level things like your own attitudes and outlooks, your strengths within the workplace, or potential challenges that might arise as well. And so that, along with collaboration guides or manager guides, there can really be helpful in understanding what someone's potential looks like, the kinds of things that they're interested in. Asking even Coach Bo that kind of question too will pull all of those insights from their personality and give you some helpful guidance there. And so really allowing you to see across those different 12 traits what that might mean for their own motivation, their own aspirations. And then you can also ask Coach Bo for different prompts in having discussions with them there. So if you're starting to identify high potential future leaders and looking at information from internal to your organization as far as team performance metrics go or individual metrics go, you can kind of cross-reference that information and help you actually have those kinds of conversations with people as well.
Great. And another question here, someone's asking, we have Criteria Suite subscription. Is that the same as Talent Suite? And Greg, it might even be helpful to show where they can find Develop in the platform as well. That might be helpful. And while you look for that, I can ask another question that's come up, which is, can Develop be used to help identify individual motivators, i.e. what motivates them to do better, etc.?
Ooh, yeah, that's a good one. And so I'd say kind of in the way that we showed that example of individual personality combined with organization values, just depending on the information that it has within the platform for your own organization too, can give you some suggestions there about motivators. And then it'll also be able to help you identify certain prompts to have those conversations with employees on the team as well. So if you're really trying to dig deeper to understand what are their motivators, how can you drive that kind of motivation across the team as well? That's something that you can get from Coach Bo and then get from those individual reports too.
Great. Just confirming you can see my screen here. It says, welcome back, Greg.
Yes.
Great. So to answer the other question about the Talent Success Suite, so we don't have a product called or a package called Criteria Suite subscription. So I would just confirm with your rep, it should be called Talent Success Suite. If you are on that, you will know because you will see Develop in the navigation and Develop here. If you don't, you'll see likely a call to action to contact Criteria, but simply clicking the button will take you to the Criteria platform. Again, this is sort of the admin view. And if you're on the Talent Success Suite, you will get this as part of your package already. You're on mute, Michelle, sorry.
Sorry about that. Another question here, how often should you take the team scan?
Yeah, so this is an interesting one, and you can also ask Coach Bo. I feel like I sound like a broken record, but it's just so helpful in so many ways. If you're unsure about how to proceed with that, you also have our psychology team as well and your customer success managers to guide you through that best practice there as well. But I know in the way that Criteria uses it, we often do it quarterly, and then individual teams can change that up a little bit too. So depends about how you want to go about implementing it, but there's a truly endless ways of using the software. So could do it quarterly, could do it weekly, just depending on what kind of information you want to gain from it. You can set the timeline there as well too. And then just depending on how often you do it, you can get different insights there as well. So even like Greg's example of having those retrospectives, so you can kind of monitor things across time to understand how are we doing, has a strength become our superpower, has something even beneath those strengths much lower on that continuum moved even higher, and so on. Just giving you that kind of valuable ability to see into that right there.
Great.
Adam, sounds like you might have had an issue. If you have a CSM, a client support rep, you can reach out to them and see if there's an issue and we can resolve it. If you are if you're not a client yet, the sales rep can guide you. If you're still having issues or you don't have a CSM, just email me. It's my first name, Greg, Greg, dot my last name, Isaacs, ISAACS, at criteriacorp.com, and we'll get it sorted out for you.
Great. I think we just have a few more questions we can get through. One question is, how long does it take to set this up for a team? Is it a long process?
You mean, honestly, if you don't have an HRIS, meaning there's no integration involved, it's a really easy process. And so it could take, candidly, minutes to set up one team. If you have more teams, it could take a little bit more time. I do think it's worthwhile, and this is where we can help you, just being thoughtful around the structure of how you want to set it up. But we've designed this not to be a heavy lift. And also we've designed it to have quite a number of walkthroughs to guide you through everything. But just know that if you're existing clients, you can probably attest to our high level of customer service. We're here to help you work through things. So our goal is to make this as frictionless as possible, and it won't be 100% perfect, but hopefully we'll get you 90% of the way there to be up and running. And then once you're up and running, again, my goal is to make this completely, you're not addressing any questions, you're more just getting insights and figuring out how to do more of what's been working.
Great. And another question, I work in retail management. How will Develop perceive existing workers who are below the mark of acceptable to retain?
You want to take that one, Megan?
Yeah, I'm thinking, so I think that also depends on how you define acceptable to retain. Just depending on some of the information that you have internally or different metrics that you measure team members by will determine the kind of next steps to take. But generally, when you're in the Develop platform and everyone's taking that team scan, you can see kind of individual one-to-one comparison of yourself and this individual, kind of how this compares, more from that manager perspective, how everyone's doing in comparison to the team as a whole or across the department. And so it does try to give you as many valuable and tangible influence and solutions there to move with, but using that information, especially if you, for instance, give it a prompt such as this team member is a lower performer on our team, and give it some examples there. What would you recommend? It can take into account that personality information and then make some suggestions there. And then you can even do what a previous attendee had asked as well, with is, if this person leaves, what kind of gaps would there be to fill, or so on. So just kind of using that as a couple different examples to help guide you.
Great. Well, I think we've gotten through everyone's questions. We went a little over time, but happy to do so when there's such amazing questions coming in. Greg and Megan, I want to thank you. Oh, there is actually another question. Okay, we'll grab that one. Following up, will it ever suggest the employee being offboarded, or is that never going to occur?
Yeah, I mean, the way we've programmed Coach Bo is for these high stakes situations of terminations or even promotions is really to guide you through to get to a decision, but the decision is yours. So Of course, over time, we can assess how we could be more helpful in this regard, but ultimately the decision should be up to you. And again, Bo can help you decide how to get to that decision. Like look at their performance, for example, and do you have goals and have they achieved those goals or not achieved those goals? And then once you've determined you will terminate this individual off board, it could give you advice on how to do that in the most ethical and humane way. But to get to the one of suggesting who you should off board based on performance, not on the roadmap, but we're a pretty flexible company, so we'll continue to listen to our clients and the market and determine what we should potentially build.
Awesome. Great questions. I think we have run out. So thank you so much, everyone who joined us today. And thank you so much, Greg and Megan, for the wonderful presentation.
Yeah, thank you for the great questions and guiding us in this direction. Look forward to working together with everyone.
Thank you. Yep, looking forward to additional questions that might come in. Thanks, everyone.
Have a great rest of your day, everyone.
Thanks.